So Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Lucy Kendall, 8th grader at BIS.
I think that's it.
Oh, okay.
You're not my friend.
All right, well, would you like to come on up and lead us in the pledge and share a little?
Okay. Like, so. You guys are like
Back to the board. Whomever you would.
Hi, my name is Lucy Kendall. I'm in 8th grade and I am the secretary of the 8th grade student council. And at BIS. Everybody please rise.
Right hand over the part of this flag.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lucy, would you like to come up and take a photo? Perhaps with your mother. The most special board member.
Oh. 1, 2, 3. Let's get one more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Should we do one more?
1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Thank you.
Outstanding one. Yeah, I don't think it have the charge.
Oh. Roll call. Okay, trustee Wong. Here. Trustee Boyd.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Kendall. Present. Trustee Meyer. And moving on to approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to approve or amend the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Actually, I was going to suggest pulling out one item on the consent agenda. Pull off board policy 3516.5 emergency schedules.
If I'm pulling something off the agenda, do I do that now as well, or do I do it when we get?
We usually put it at the end. You know, kind of like pull it and then
Oh. I would like to pull 15 B.
Which one is that?
That is the calendar.
I was gonna ask that, one other thing.
well, we'll make a motion when we count all the changes we want.
15 BE, the board policy for the district school website. I have a few questions about that.
So can we make a motion to pull those from the consent agenda and approve the movement? Item after item 18.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor? Okay, approval of minutes, or sorry, public statements related to agenda items. Public statements. At the direction of the Board of Trustees, the public may address the board on non-agenda items and/or agenda items. In person, if you choose to make a public statement and you are present at the meeting, please complete the blue request to address the Board of Trustees form and provide it to the superintendent's assistant, and you will be called upon during the agenda item. Virtual. If you are virtual and wish to make a public statement, please email your statement to info@burlingameschools.org. You must submit your statement no later than 12 p.m. noon on the board meeting day. Your statement will be included. You will not be called upon to read the statement. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending upon the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. If your comment is on an item that is not on the agenda, then you will be asked to speak during the public statements related to non-agenda topics at the end of the meeting.
We still have the minutes for December 13th.
Approval of the minutes from December 13th, 2022. Would anyone like to approve?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Shall I read that again? I will finish up that last sentence. If your comment is on an item that is on the agenda, then you will be called on to speak at the times of the agenda items. Are there any?
There are no public statements for non-agenda items.
Moving on to item 11, union statement, Burlingame Education Association. So, Ms. Michelle Brion.
Good evening, parents, teachers, board members, and community members. My name is Michelle Brion. I teach kindergarten at Roosevelt School. I have been in the district for 22 years. I am blessed to be at Roosevelt and I'm part of the BSD family. On behalf of BEA, we are excited about Marla Silversmith as our interim superintendent, but with enthusiasm and optimism, we are hopeful she'll be our new superintendent soon. Marla creates a warm, caring environment for our students and staff. We appreciate her open door policy. Marla's smile and positive energy is quite contagious. Thank you, Marla, for all you do.
Thank you. Statement of the principal, and now we have Ms. Erica Gilbert, BIS principal. She'll be providing us with the principal statement.
Good evening. I'm Erica Gilbert, principal at BIS. Couple things, 4 of our elementary schools just were honored with California Distinguished School, Franklin, Hoover, Lincoln, and Washington. So we're very excited about that. This last week, the principals participated in some professional development with Luz Cazares, and her title on her card is Fierce Advocate for Equity Education. But it was really a really great time for all of us principals to actually reflect and talk to each other about some of our beliefs and who we are. And so it was a really energetic day. And thank you to Ms. Silversmith for organizing that. At BIS, we are currently collecting lightly used or new warm coats for 1 warm coat for our students in action. And we just completed our BIS spelling bee. We had a continuation. It was supposed to be done on Thursday night, but we went over. And so we finished Friday morning, and 8th grader Claire 9 is our winner, and she will go on to the regionals to represent Burlingame. And then this Thursday, we have another in-person event, which we're really excited about, and that's our STEM fair at 6 p.m. So please come and join us.
Okay, and now statement of Marla Silversmith and then superintendent.
Great, thank you. We are very excited that our next 4 elementary schools received the California Distinguished School Award. That is super exciting, and we will be going on February 16th, along with our 2 union presidents, to Southern California to receive the Distinguished Award. We would not be able to do it without our CSEA and our BEA partnership, so we're very excited about that. We coming back from break, we just had our speech therapist, something unique to Burlingame School District. All of our speech therapists took a week and they did screening for all of our kindergartners. So 307 kindergartners in the district, and universally screened every student for articulation and fluency. stuttering and different utterances, work with all of our kindergarten teachers. And we've been doing that for about 4 years, which is a great offering. So they partner with the teachers to go in and see how we can support all of our students. And that information is shared with teachers and parents to be able to make sure that we're getting every student to make sure that we are supporting the whole child. So not just academically, but also with regards to their speech and every other marker that they need to be supported with developmentally. So that's very exciting. Educational services, along with the fiscal department, are working. We will be opening registration for next school year already. So we are already talking about that in partnership with PTA. So we've been working with Ms. Chandra Lund to go ahead and support all of that. And we'll be opening February 1st. So we're already talking about the next school year. It's coming very quickly. And our TK days are expanding for next year. So we will go back to April 2nd. So we are starting our outreach with preschools, and you'll see that on our Instagram, going out just saying how excited we are to go ahead and open that up a little bit more. And we are extremely happy that we will have a TK at every school site next year. So that'll be nice. Expanding to all 6 elementary schools will have their own TK. And I just want to take a second and say, with all the storms and everything that's gone on, just a great thank you to our facilities department, maintenance and operations, our custodians, storm drains, leaks. I mean, well, so many of us were hunkered down under blankets. They were out there doing a lot of hard work, and we're very thankful for all of that. And to all of our staff and everybody else that has hunkered down with indoor recesses and principals moving stuff around and lunch and everything else, just thank you. I know it's been a lot, but it's been a great little bit over a week back, and we just appreciate it. It's been great to see our kids and all of our staff and students, and it's exciting to start 2023 with you all together. So thank you.
Okay, and now on to statement of report of board members. And we will start with trustee Wong.
I thought I'd share what I did this weekend. So I chaperoned the Burlingame High School band, the jazz band, concert band, and the choir to Disneyland. They did their Disney trip. And Kyoko Yamamoto is their music director, and she used to work for us. And the last time she did a Disney trip was actually when she worked for us. So she went with a lot of the current seniors who are about to leave. Of course, it's very emotional for her. But it's just, I mean, she had tried to do Disney after, before today, but it just never worked out. So it was just great that she finally got to do it with the same class that she actually, a lot of the same students who went from BIS, and a couple of the parents who were chaperoned this weekend actually chaperoned that trip too, which it's amazing that they did that. But they were extremely well behaved. Most of these kids are our kids, and some of them told Mrs. Yamamoto that they've never actually had private lessons. Everything they know in terms of playing an instrument is because of her. She is their only music teacher, and some of them are, they sound amazing. The jazz band at VHS is unbelievably good. So I recommend you can catch any of their concerts. So good. So thought I just show you how we closely live there. Our music program is really great and churning out some future musicians. Right.
Just want to quickly thank Omar and the facilities department for spending the first 10 days of the year being on site in our schools when all of us were at home. And so our schools were safe and ready to reopen for our teachers, our staff, and our kids. So thank you.
Trustee Brown.
Nothing to report other than I enjoyed the BIS spelling bee as a parent, and Principal Gilbert did an excellent job. Not exactly emceeing, but keeping that on track and making it happen. So thank you.
And trustee Kendall.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody after the break. I wanted to give a shout out to the Art Reflections program for BIS. It was great to see all the artwork on display, dance to drawings to writing and all sorts of stuff. So kind into your routine. Otherwise, that's it. It's good to see you all, and I'm looking forward to the new year.
Okay. I wanted to share that along with trustee Brown and Kendall, we attended the National Blue Ribbon Celebration for BIS. Another shout out to BIS. It was so fun and so well done, and the kids had such a great time. And a huge thank you to the PTA as well, because it was a heavy lift and it was just great to see all those kids out there having fun and having such a great reason to celebrate. Another congratulations to our California Distinguished School Award winners. And lastly, I just want to also provide a reminder to the public that Superintendent Chris Montfinides is out on a leave of absence. Assistant Superintendent Marla Silversmith has graciously stepped in as our interim superintendent and has taken over all superintendent duties during the duration of his leave. As this is a personnel matter, we cannot provide details at this time. Do need to follow that protocol, and we will share information with staff and our BXD community as soon as we are able. All right, and moving on to the consent agenda. All right, so we've already polled, so we don't need, I don't need to say anything specific there. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, moving on to 16, item 16, education, 16A, summer learning opportunity.
Good evening, Board President Mudd, Interim Superintendent Silversmith. I would really prefer sitting as I very casually make my way over here. Rewind. Good evening, Board President Mudd, Interim Superintendent Silversmith, and distinguished board members. My name is Katie Von Husen, and I'm the principal on special assignment. One of my tasks in this job is to support and develop summer programming for our students. To that end, part of the work that we've done is hire an assistant administrator to support me in doing that work. And I wanted to take a second to introduce you to Brian McManus, who will be sharing this presentation with me.
Hello, Board President Mudd, Interim Superintendent Silversmith, and distinguished board members. I'm Brian McManus, fifth grade teacher at Washington Elementary School, and the assistant administrator working with Kate to implement the district's extended learning opportunities plan. So we're excited tonight to present our plan for the upcoming summer and intersession learning opportunities for the Burlingame School District's TK through 8th grade students. So the program for the summer has 4 components to it. In summary, this first part is the extended school year, ESY, which is for our special education students with extended school year designated in their IEPs. Part 2 would be the step up to kindergarten and transitional kindergarten, which would be a program for 4 weeks, which students which have not been exposed or have not participated in preschool prior to kindergarten. Part 3 is our summer academy, which we're super excited about. It's a full week, full day offered to the district's unduplicated students, which consists of the free and reduced lunch students, English language learners, and foster care children. So this program has 2 of morning and afternoon part of the day. One will be a morning academic summer camp, and academic camp, and then afternoon would be a summer camp focused around art and STEAM activities. And finally, there's the Burlingame School District and Galileo partnership for the summer camp. And currently we're in negotiations with the Galileo about the rates and the discounts that the Burlingame School District families and our vulnerable students will be receiving. So the extended school year, again, this is the extended school year mirrors our summer academy. It's a 4-week program, and the extended school year will be during the morning session from 8:30 to 11:30 for 4 weeks. So it will be the same as the math academic camp for the full steam ahead program. It does have different dates. It starts 2 weeks prior to, so then there's a 2-week overlap and we're currently not, we don't know what campus it will be at. Last year, it worked at the same, where they had the program at the same campus, Roosevelt, and it went great, having both the camps there together to interact. And again, these are for students with the extended school year mandated in their IEPs in order to minimize learning loss over the summer. And we'll be working with Dr. Luca Tripelli in administering this program.
I pushed too hard. Sorry. One moment for your
There.
comedy break. Sorry, Ms. Kirsten.
Fine, don't worry.
Well, I never do anything half-hearted. If I'm gonna break it, I'm gonna break it all the way.
There.
Thank you,
We did.
Kirsten.
And here's the little breakdown of the Step Up to Kindergarten. Again, this is a 4-week program, and this will run concurrent with the Full Steam Ahead Summer Academy. On the same campus, this is one teacher and one paraprofessional working to ease the transition into kindergarten. Is that the students will be learning school day routines and essential academics that will help them start off their academic career on a good first step. So this is a half-day program, but again, it's 4 weeks. And then there's the Full Steam Ahead, which Kate's gonna talk about.
I'm very, very excited about kind of the conception and the vision that's gone on to this. It started with Interim Superintendent Silversmith being very clear that what we're going to focus on is both math and arts, specifically music. So I came up with the Full Steam Ahead Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. And we are going to run the program for 4 weeks. It is funded by the Extended Learning Opportunities Program Grant, which requires 30 additional days outside the school year and 9 hours of programming. So in looking at how we could make a day tenable and engaging and make it work for our families, we decided that the half of the day was going to be of an academic bent with a focus on math support. And we're going to go into a little bit. I have a sneak peek for you on some of Joe Bowler's curriculum. We're going to be using those ELOP funds to support our teachers who will be working with us in the summertime to receive the training and get the curriculum. The other half of the day is going to be more choice oriented. We've already recruited a couple of our woofy doofy, very special music teachers who are excited to come in and do some work with our students. We're also going to plumb the depths of the other teachers who are interested. If somebody, one of the things people told me about Brian McManus is he enjoys performing arts and has in the past helped kids put on plays. So if there are other teachers with similar interests that we can kind of plumb the depths of in order to give some robust choice to our students who will be with us for that enrichment half of the day. Additionally, I come from a background where I headed up the math, science, technology for a different district and have resources in what's called the Fab Lab, the Fabrication Laboratory, where we develop curriculum where students were exposed to NGSS science standards in, for instance, sound waves, and they use the other part of the day to actually fabricate their own radio. We have the ability to access those materials. Kids welded together their own sound boards and then designed the acrylic box that those boards went into, and at the end of the program walked out with their own working radio. So working with teachers to design lessons that incorporate those kinds of technologies that are also grounded in the science standards that we're expecting them to learn. I have highfalutin ideas about the numbers of teachers that we're going to be able to support. Currently, the breakdown that Brian's going to share with you involves 16 certificated teachers. In order to make this as attractive as possible, Brian and I will try to design the programming so folks that only want to work half day might be able to do that, and folks that want to work a whole day and maybe have an interest in visual arts and drawing, that we can utilize them for the whole day. So what does full steam ahead include? Well, mathematics, as I mentioned, we're going to look at a little snippet from Joe Bowler's UQ Summer Camp curriculum. And all teachers who indicated interest in our summer program were told that attending the 2-day training was a mandatory part of their commitment to teaching in the summertime. So the first half of the video, in order to save us time, is kids talking about how boring mathematics learning usually is. We have a textbook and we got to start at chapter 1 and we have to do X number of problems. I've skipped ahead to the part where you can see some of Joe Bowler's work in actual action.
I've done better with math when I was talking with people, sharing ideas. 4 or 5 grades were better than 1.
I'll see it one way, but then someone else will see it another way. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
I love that we're getting different answers out because what's the problems in math? There are different answers.
Have more than one way to solve the question.
Because in real life, you're not going to just do one thing. You're going to do many things. You're going to need to use different methods.
Take your time and just experiment with every way that could possibly work.
You definitely have to be patient because certain problems they take forever. Math isn't about speed, and you can make mistakes and you learn from them.
Math isn't like the enemy and it can't hurt me.
You can run wild, you can pass ideas by each other.
I thought that math was all about right answers and wrong. Now that I believe that math is really about ideas and creativity, it's a lot more inspiring.
What's at the core of Joe Bowler's work, it's not about teaching algorithms. We all went to school where we memorized the way to do math, right? Carry, put down, carry. Joe Bowler is teaching students and teaching teachers how to teach students how to be mathematical thinkers, as opposed to just doing the math problem. So I talked a little bit about the design fabrication. I'm looking into, we have used the ELOP funds to purchase Lego curriculum, which is again hands-on using design thinking, science, technology, engineering, and math based on the Lego cubes that all of our kids have grown up enjoying. For me, the biggest piece about arts is an aspect of choice, but it's also an aspect about finding the teachable moments. I've talked to music teachers who are interested in coming on board that when you teach music and it says 3/4 time, that's a fraction. So one of the must-dos for our teachers as they develop the curriculum is how to make sure that that math focus from the morning carries over in as many ways as possible. This is a look at how we plan to get the full 30 days offering for the 23-24 school year outside of the school year dates. You can see we have intersessions planned. And for our unduplicated students, just to reaffirm, we have just over 700 in our district. Students are either EL, qualify for free and reduced plan meals, or are in the foster system. And the ELOP grant asks that we offer programming. Do I expect 700 plus kids in the summer? No, but 700 plus kids will be offered these opportunities so that they can make use of them if they are able to.
Okay, so a little look at the budget and the cost for this. The teacher stipend is $6,000 for the 4-week session, $6,000 for the half day, and $12,000 for the full day. We know it's a lot. That's a whopping load over what summer school is usually paying, but we're asking a heck of a lot more for the participation in this program. The 2 days to go to Sanford to get the training with Joe Bowler, as well as there will be 8 2-hour planning sessions mandated where the teachers will develop their scope and sequence of their program for the afternoon projects and curriculum and develop their agenda and outline so we can communicate those classes with the parents that are involved so that they can make wise choices about if they want to participate in the students and the parents. Again, we're anticipating serving about 400 students. And then the training, about $1,000 per person. Is that 12 teachers plus? Because we had 16 teachers on that other chart going in, or maybe like the music teachers wouldn't go or the PE teacher wouldn't go. And then there's the administrator's stipend. Because that's a whopping number. And so something that's unique about this is that in my experience of teaching summer school, I've done it probably at the Burlingame School District 20 summers. And the teachers show up day one, figure out what they're going to do, teach for 4 weeks. It's over and the kids benefit. I'm not saying that that system doesn't work, but by having them come with an organized plan and setting up a curriculum and having a vision of where they're going to take the class for the next 4 weeks, it's going to be much more rewarding and satisfying to the kids and much more beneficial to them. And I think where Katie's got this is a great vision that she has, speaking as a teacher, is giving the teachers a voice and a choice on what they want to teach, so that the teachers will be able to teach curriculum topic that's their passion. Maybe it's something that they want to integrate into the classroom during the regular school year, but they either can't find time or they don't have the courage and or take a risk to do it with the full class. This will give them an opportunity to test out and try, model and practice so that they could then bring this to the regular general ed classroom. So here's the estimated cost.
So we've reached the point if you have any questions, for us.
Question?
So this might be a question for Amanda. So we're anticipating like 400 children, for the head, right? So 400. And let's say we get like 300 yeses from the students that qualify under UPP. Are we going to offer like 100 spots for students? I mean, I know we've done in the past where they paid actually some money to come to the summer program. But they normally would not have qualified, but because we had space, we offered that out as on a first come, first served basis. And it was actually like quickly taken up, like the spots were quickly filled. So are we going to do that?
Our plan in year one is to offer, excuse me, the program entirely free to all students. So we'll open it up to our UPP and then we will reach out to site administrators to see if there are other students that would benefit greatly from the program. And then if we have spots available, we will open the remainder spots. We will likely need to look at a lottery or something like that.
This would start in February, right? Because it's 20.
Yeah, I want. Did I turn myself on? No. When you work with a program that hasn't worked, that hasn't existed before, extended learning opportunities program, we're picking it up and getting it all set. I have found in my experience that if you do a pilot program, so Brian and I are going to be able to figure out how do we determine who our duplicated kids are? How do we communicate with them the offerings that are available to them? And then how do we document to the state who's gonna come in and audit, did you offer these programs to the right people? So the February program will be small. I've already approached an elementary school and a principal who said, sure. So we might start just with one. And you know what, if no teachers are interested in working over February, me and Brian will teach it. And we'll get the program off and running. I do expect, given that the ELOP monies allows us to compensate teachers for what they're worth, that we're gonna find people interested in doing it. If we find 10 people, and that means we can serve up to, for 20 times 10, up to 200 kids during that February break. So it's really gonna depend on how we get the word out, how we simultaneously recruit teachers, and what it is we're able to do. Then with those learning in February, we grow our March offerings. And then when we go into the summer, we are prepared to have our systems in place to address the needs district-wide.
Any questions?
Yeah, sorry, I have a lot of questions. First, with respect to the full steam ahead and the step up kinder, those are new programs, is that correct? At that level?
When I did my research kind of into the history of our summer offerings, and Brian can speak to this too, we have traditionally, as a school district, offered summer academy, which is to support learning loss or to support remediation needs for our students. And the Step Up to Kinder has also been one of those programs. What I've done is I've taken the summer academy under direction from the folks to whom I report, and the focus is specifically math and music. And then kind of I've broadened that up a little bit to include all the arts and science, technology, and engineering as well. So that is in lieu of the summer academy. And then grew it because of the demands of ELOP to include the 9 hours of programming. In the past, we kind of did the half-day deal, right? We have to offer the 9 hours. So we have the summer academy, which is the math intensive work, the more academic work. And then we have the summer camp for the second half, which is the enrichment piece. I think I got to your question. Tell me if I didn't.
You did, because
Okay.
where I was gonna lead in, this might be a financial question. Is the cost for just those two programs, full steam ahead and kinder, is about $350,000. Did we spend approximately that amount in previous years on summer academy?
I would have to look into that and get back to you.
Okay,
I don't know
that's
the cost.
totally fine. So with
I don't want to gainsay her. I don't have exact sums. But in working with Interim Superintendent Silversmith and Ms. Boniver, we looked at previous salaries for teachers, and we looked at the funds available through us for ELOP. And we wanted to make this enticing to our very, very best teachers to want to give up that summertime, to want to give up those intercession times. So I will say the rate for teacher compensation is better than it was before.
And with respect though, I don't recall, maybe I missed it, others can correct me, when we've had previous budget talks, seeing this budgeted for approximately that amount. And so was that in previous projections, and where are we counting for the money to pay for this program?
So we will be using the new ELOP funds that are in this year's budget, but they are currently unbudgeted. They're sitting as part of our restricted ending fund balance. We didn't have the numbers at first interim. The program wasn't slated quite yet, so you will see all of these amounts in second interim.
And so as restricted funds, then we must use them for a designated purpose, such as this program, use it or lose it. Correct.
Correct. So it's for the 9 hour, 200 extra 30 days each year. And yes, if you do not spend it, you don't spend it accordingly to state laws, or if you don't spend it, eventually the state will request it back.
And is the amount we're projecting roughly going to cover the cost of, again, just with full steam ahead and step up kinder?
It's going to, this is well under the amount that we're receiving. We will need to look at expanding the program.
Okay.
Trying to pull it up as the amount.
Oh, no, so,
1.7.
okay, so there's fund for this program is where I was going with this.
And Step Up to Kinder is actually not a part of it. Full Steam Ahead is Stuck Up Together is not slated as
It's not slated, but it could be funded, it could be funded through the ELOP money.
part of it,
Yes.
correct?
And that would still be in the restricted funds that will cover this amount.
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's great.
Mike, she'll get the exact amount, but that that's
So I think that we have to wait to get led
The
into
official.
the budget components of it.
It's okay, I can
Yeah.
move on to other fun questions. With the kinder program, you mentioned those without preschool experience. I've been a preschool parent for 7 years in a row, so I understand this work pretty good. How are you defining preschool experience? Because there's a lot of different things out there.
I'm gonna ask Assistant Interim Superintendent Silversmith to answer that one, please.
We originally started it for students that, about 4 years ago, I would say, for students that didn't have, when you register, you say, have you ever had preschool experience? And if they mark no, then we did outreach with our families. It's actually been expanded to students for families that might be wondering about wanting TK over K. When we do outreach with families that we have questions with, when we do initial intakes, anything like that. So it's not truly a hard line, it lies a little bit in the gray, and we do it when we do conversations with families. So it's more about relationships and when our principals meet with families or when kindergarten teachers meet with families. So it's anybody that we might have, the families might want to have conversations about whether they think their child is ready for kinder. But we never truly fill that class. It's right about 20 every summer.
It is, I heard you mention earlier, getting accustomed to school. Is it more about academics or more sit still, circle time? We're gonna sing the days of the week song and.
It's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
It's school readiness. It's learning how to share. It changed a little bit during COVID. It also just depends. We also can invite principals in to see, you know, what does Lisa look like in the summer, so they can also help figure out what the best class fit might be. It just depends upon what it looks like. It also helps for child find, which means if we're looking to see if we want to have special ed come in, see if we can help support a child with an assessment. But it is school readiness, really. It could be sitting for what does it look to line up in a school. But it can be an array of what does school look like for a student that's never been in a school.
And I think you have the right idea in having a not necessarily shifting standard, but circumstantial standard depending on the family. Because in my experience, there may be those who say they have preschool experience, but what they've been in may not necessarily be what others define as preschool. So I wouldn't want to close this program to those just because someone checks a box that says preschool. So there may be ways to ask that when soliciting information to determine, because sometimes people just go to music and me class once a week or something and say, yes, my kid went to preschool. Or they're worried there may be ramifications if they did not go to preschool. So they click, yes, I went to preschool. So I would be interested in expanding that. So I think you have the right idea. With the full steam ahead, I heard it said earlier, how are you determining eligibility? Because with 8 grades and 400 spots, roughly 50 kids a grade. Could you talk about how that's done?
I'm going to take half of this and then punt it back over to interim superintendent. Part of the problem with starting a new way of doing things is I don't have any way to predict how many folks are going to want in. It could be that 750 people want in, and every single person who's unduplicated wants their kids to show up. It could be we only get half that number. So that predicates things like how you offer jobs to teachers, right? Here, you get this job predicated on enrollment. So because it's brand new, there's sometimes no way to ask. If we don't get up to 400 and I've got teachers waiting in the wings, we start with offering it to the unduplicated students. Then I think someone up here talked about, we go to classroom teachers and we perhaps have a Google form for them to fill out, where they indicate to us students that have specific academic needs that would benefit from a prevention of learning loss over the summertime. So it really is part and parcel with how much initial interest we get from our duplicated students, and also the teachers that we have ready to go to teach, and the interest from the community as well.
So is the goal to prevent learning loss, or is it to teach additional material? Because I saw it in the video, I think it said 18 lessons and a 50%, almost 2 years improvement in math scores. And I don't want to challenge that, I have no way to quantify, but that seems unbelievable.
Even Brian whispered in my ear, that's an amazing statistic.
But, yeah.
And we're gonna send our teachers, and we're going to work, part of the reason we want our teachers for 8 2-hour sessions is to work with them on concepts about how do we differentiate and remediate for students that need the remediation? How do we engage and push the students forward that want to be pushed forward? So it's about working with our teachers in their planning so that they're meeting the needs of the students when they show up, right? Meeting students at their place of need.
So, okay, can you provide any more about identifying the roughly 50 students per, because we have 6 different books.
Right,
Cool.
absolutely. So, and I appreciate that our auditors back there are listening to our answers. But no, I think we're gonna do in partnership. Honestly, a lot of it's in partnership. So what we would do is across the district, we're gonna look at our students that are most in needs. We're gonna obviously look at our students that meet the criteria, priorities given, what it says is priorities given TK through 6th grade. And then we would look at students that meet UPT or unduplicated count, and then we would look at where they're being flagged, where are they at risk, where are they having needs with math, with reading, with attendance, with engagement, and how can we support them? We work with the principals and we talk about what is it that Florence needs supported, and how could we bring Florence in and work with Florence and her family to make sure that we're supporting that. And what does that look like? And then once we go to capacity, and then if we're not at capacity and we still have room, what does that next layer look like? And how can we continue to build that to get to capacity? And I don't think we're going to go with empty seats. So if we still have room, I have no doubt that our district will fill it. There's going to be, I mean, we're constantly getting calls from our principals, you know, can we have one more kid get into that program? So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. So once we've asked all of our students that we can invite, I think that we'll continue to find layers of students that we'll be able to come to.
What's the time estimate in terms of when we'll start knowing how many students have enrolled and when we're opening it up in general to BSD?
So it's an action item tonight. So once the board gives us an action to go forward, Brian and Katie would get access to, Katie probably has access, but there would be access to more data, and then they would get the charge to start going. As Katie stated, we want to start small. So the first one would be in February. Katie talked about the elementary. The other component that we've asked Katie to take charge with is to really work with our students that are in 8th grade algebra. So to do a targeted outreach to students that are currently in Edgenuity or not that are needing more support with Edgenuity. So that would be another targeted group for the February component that is online. So it's not necessarily kids that have to come in. So we'd be looking at our UPT counts around that too. So 7 o'clock, Katie. So I mean, I would hope that that's starting right away. So ideally, historically, how this happens is as soon as the action item is done, they would start doing their counts and working with principals to figure out the next steps for the rollout. There would be a targeted email that would go out, and there would be pretty quickly they get on it because we really have to secure components. Once they work with facilities to find the actual facility that will work, because we also have to incorporate busing. Let's say that it's going to be at Hoover. It's not, but let's just say it's going to be at Hoover. If we want to bus kids from McKinley, we work with a transportation company that would go to different school sites, and then they bus them up to the school that it's at. But all of that, the logistics of it all have to work out. So there's components that have to be put in place to get us to the start day. And that has to start happening pretty quickly. So
the work that we were able to start under direction from Marla is we have a list of 20 teachers who already expressed interest in doing this work. So as soon as the board blesses this, Brian and I will start working on onboard and with our new director of HR on onboarding those teachers who are interested in doing the summer work. And it's kind of simultaneous, right? We have to have the adults to receive the kids, plus we have to have the kids for the adults to teach. So simultaneous with everything she said is onboarding those teachers and getting that work started.
And I believe, chief business official, I learned that it's not officer, it's official the other day, has an answer to the amount.
Okay. So in 21-22, we received $230,000. And in current year 22-23, we received $1,077,000 for a total of $1.3 million over the past 2 years.
And that's restricted funds only for purposes like
Only for
this.
this program.
Wonderful, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you for the work you, thank you for the work you're doing. I agree with the superintendent. I don't think open seats will be a problem.
My question was about the algebra component, and I think interim superintendent Silversmith has addressed most of that, but I was wondering about how you would accrue. I guess this would just be for the February and March session, or just for
I'm very hard to deny when I go in person. So for instance, we really wanted a particular music teacher at BIS to join the program. And before I spoke with her, she hadn't signed up. But I went and I don't know. But I went and I sat with her. And I described all of these things that she's going to be able to do, including using her creativity to design engaging curriculum for these students. And she's now on my list of 20 folks. So part of the work that Brian and I will do will be hands-on talking directly to our teachers and recruiting, the very best to do this support for algebra. Let's say, realistically, because there's not that many of them, no, none of them can do that because my previous work was heading up math and science department for a larger district. I would go recruit some folks from outside. Priority is our teachers, though. That's number one. But if I come up empty, I have other resources upon which we can call.
Okay, I just wanted to say how glad I am to see this support for the algebra program in this year, especially with this population. So I'm very strongly supportive of you doing this, and thank you.
Passing algebra the first time is an indication of so much success in different areas as they move through high school. So I'm very well aware about all the stakes of passing algebra.
Well, thank you. This was so wonderful to hear, and I would love if you would be interested, and everybody would want to talk about it at the end, to have you come back after summer and hear how the program went and report out. And
part of what Brian and I are very interested in is bringing data to you.
Yeah.
We want to talk about attendance. We want to talk about sizes of classes on the first day versus sizes of classes on the last day, and pre and post test data for how well our kids are progressing. And then part of our work will be to follow those same kids through the school year as well, so that we understand that the investment of these funds, that we're good custodians in support of our students' achievement.
great. And do the parents have any, are they provided any, I know it can't be mandatory, but expectations around attendance for these programs?
Part of how I sell summer work is reminding them how hard it's going to be to come by a seat. That if you're, this is part of the work that once we have our teaching team in place, we can talk about what is expected in terms of on-time attendance. What is the expectation in terms of missed days? Families have lives, teachers have lives, children have lives, stuff happens. But we can't expect somebody to come for 2 days the first week and 2 days the last week, and for them to, from there to be demonstrable change in their achievement. So.
Well, that was wonderful. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I will move to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
Lauren, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Love you.
Yeah, we got stuff to do tonight.
I'll give you access right now.
Okay, moving on to item 17, business finance. Presentation of municipal advisory services proposal for KM and public finance, and this is a voting item.
Thank you, President Mudd. On November 14th, 2022, staff issued an RFQP to receive professional service proposals for municipal advisory services. The team met and interviewed 3 firms, and K&N was selected by the interview panel. And so it is our recommendation that the board approves the financial services.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just know that Dan and I were on that selection committee, so we're on board.
You're on.
And I would just know a very thorough job by Amanda presenting everything in the selection committee.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the selection of Canon.
I'll second.
Dan, all in favor? Aye. Great. And 17B district 2021-2022 district financial audit report.
All right, thank you. Tonight we bring forward the 2021-22 financial audit report. Paul is here from our audit firm to speak and answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you very much for inviting me out to share with you the results of the June 30th, 2022 audit. Will I have the PDF up to control with this? Is that how that's going to work?
You won't be able to go through the slides. It's the entire document and it's a PDF, so it doesn't work with the clicker.
Well, it's scroll. Is that?
No.
That won't scroll.
If you say I can scroll it.
Okay, so I can just reference you to the pages then? Okay, sure. Thank you. All right, so what I'd like to do, because there's been a lot of changes this last year. So I'll jump right into the financial highlights, just so I can explain how some of these numbers, what they mean to the district and how they impact the district. And then I'll go right into the audit results. And so if you please go to page 8, which is table 1. Okay, so this is the summary of this district's net position. So if you see at the very bottom there, the total net position doesn't seem like it changed a lot. It's only about $88,000 increase. Doesn't seem very significant, but if you look at the detail, like in the individual line items, there are some big changes. So for example, if you look at the current assets there, it decreased by $37.6 million, and then capital assets went up $8 million. So the big part of that is in the year before Fund 35, you guys had the school facilities grant. So you spent down the cash from that grant. So cash is a current asset and converted that into a capital asset. Same with your bond measure programs. You had cash from issuing the bonds, spent down cash, converted that into construction projects and whatnot. And so basically it's a flip-flop between cash to capital assets. So that's where you see those big changes there.
And the difference there is the depreciation.
Exactly. The difference there is the depreciation. Yep. Another thing I wanted to highlight there is your long-term liability. So if you could please get down to the table 6, which is on page 12. So here, this is kind of a summary of the district's long-term debt, and the big change that you'll see is the net pension liability. And what I want to point out here is that this is really for the current year just a book entry, right? Because the way the calculation is done, it's done based on an actuarial study, which is it's every 2 years behind. And so if you remember all the fluctuation in the market and the volatility that's happened 2 years ago, there were big gains. And so in the pension plan, there's assets in the plan. Those assets get invested. So they saw really large unrealized gains. And so it gives the impression that the pension liability has gone down substantially, but as we all know, the very next year, which is last year, we just went through, all those gains that we had went away. So in fiscal year 23, you'll see a complete opposite of that. So if you're doing any planning, just take it with a grain of salt that your net pension liability is gonna go right back up pretty much, just due to market volatility.
So that 2022 number is based on actually market results in 21. So
That's correct, yeah. So it's actually 20 in 20,
30.
yeah. 2020, yeah, because in 23, we're gonna be using the 21 market numbers. Because they take the numbers from 2 years ago, do the valuation, and then we're a year even after that. So it's really 2 years behind.
And that's like just CalPERS and CalSTRS. that
CalPERS, yeah.
Calculated and give us the number.
Exactly, yeah. So the plans themselves, they hire accountants to come in and run the numbers and all that stuff. And then we use that report for our audit. And then if you go back to page table 1 on page 8, please. And so related to the long-term liabilities there, with that decrease in the net pension liability, you see the deferred inflows went up. So the way the deferred inflows happens is that when the actuaries if their assumptions are wrong, like there's changes in the assumption, meaning like in this particular case, the assumption on the return on the assets didn't quite match what actually happened in the market. And so that deferred inflows is a big part of that is related to them not properly predicting what the market was going to do. So really they offset each other. Next year, you can see a complete opposite. Those two offset. And so those are big changes. I just wanted to point those out in case you're looking at these and wondering why the numbers have changed so significantly year over year. That's what's going on there. So to get to kind of what you guys are interested in, what do you guys look at on a day-to-day basis? I can refer you to table number 3, which is on page 10. I'm sorry, not table 3, table 4 on page 11. So these are the funds. This is the summary of the changes in fund balance. And as I was alluding to earlier about the building fund, spending down there's the cash and using it on your capital projects. That's going to be a big part of why your funds have decreased pretty substantially. It's just spending down of the bond funds. And so if I can just go way down to page 75. So this is once you get to page 75, this is going to be the trends in the general fund, the main operating fund for the district. And what you'll see here on page 75. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, right there. So what you'll see here is that the district's got a pretty healthy fund balance in 20 and 21, and then it dropped quite a bit in 22. The big reason for that is if you see there's a $4.3 million transfer out, and the transfer out went to support some of the capital projects that were done. It went to the deferred maintenance fund. It went to the reserve for other capital outlay projects. But the district having recently gone to being locally funded, it is important to kind of build that reserve back up. You guys are at a healthy reserve of 3.3% for a district your size, so there's no issue there. It's not a concern. But being locally funded and having to rely on property taxes when property values go up and down, you want a nice strong reserve to kind of mitigate some of those fluctuations.
I was going to say we are in a test 1 year, so we cannot have over 3%. We have an additional 7% in Fund 17.
Okay, so yeah, so it looks like Amanda's already on top of planning that through. So yeah, so that's a general fund right there. So if are there any questions on the numbers of the writings with the
As that transfers out the 4.3 million, does that also include our OPEB contributions or contributions?
No, that included transfers to Fund 17 when we increased our 7% and our BCE resolution was called, and then it also went into our Fund 14 for deferred maintenance, and we transferred into the turf replacement.
And that's reflected on page 68 if you wanted to see how that flowed into the funds.
Any questions? Yep, just two quick ones. You mentioned earlier, with regard to pension, and I may have missed it, or perhaps you just summarize for me again. Why did our net pension liabilities go down 50%?
Go down, what I'm saying.
50%.
Well, I don't know that it's 50%, but the reason it went down substantially is because the assets, so the assets are when the members, the employees contribute to the plan, when the districts contribute to the plan and the state contribute to the plan, those contributions get invested, right? And when the market goes up or down, in the case here, the market went up substantially. So the assets grew, which offsets the liability. And so the net liability went down substantially because of the returns from the assets.
You're talking about CalPERS,
CalPERS, yes.
because they were down 6 or 8%, the closing balance in June.
You're talking about 22, yeah, so that's going to get reflected in 23. So that's why I'm saying that you'll see the net pension liability go right back down. You know, that's because all those gains we did before just all got wiped away.
And then my second comment was, there were no surprises reading this to me. It really highlighted to me how good of a job our business department is doing, because our interim reports, which are very tough to get exact numbers because money moves, really matched up when I'm back and referencing. So thank you.
All right, so let me get right into the audit results. So yeah, we had a clean audit. We issued unmodified opinions. We issued a couple reports and opinions in this one. So in terms of the scope, you know, we for our audit, you guys did have federal compliance as usual. This last year, we selected the National School Lunch Program for review. We did the state compliance as normal. There's a lot of new programs that got rolled out and got added to the compliance section for the state, and then also the bond measures. We included that in our audit as well. So with respect to the financial statements, we issued an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements were fairly presented in all material respects. In terms of the internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance, our audit did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting that we considered to be material weaknesses, and our tests disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government audited standards. And then lastly, in terms of the compliance, the district complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements of state programs. So overall, there were no significant uncorrected adjustments, no difficulties during our audit, no disagreements with management. Yeah, really good audit. I wanted to thank Amanda and her team for supporting us through the audit. You know, the district did go through some turnover in the last couple of years. Amanda's really built up a really strong team, trying to get that continuity there, doing a lot of cleanup and making some good improvements. So very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 18, human resources. Appointment of interim superintendent and contract. Voting item.
Thank you. Tonight, we bring forward a contract for interim superintendent Silversmith. And it is recommended that the board appoint and approve the contract that will go into effect as of December 6th, 2022.
Are there any questions? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'd be very happy to make a motion to approve the contracts.
Would anyone like, thank you guys, would anyone like to second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lauren. All in favor?
Aye.
And I just want to reiterate that we're so thankful for you graciously accepting up already. Okay, and now 18B, student and community engagement coordinator job description. And this is also a voting.
Tonight, we bring forward a job description for the Student and Community Engagement Coordinator. This is a new position which will be housed at the district office to help build the gap between ed services and the fiscal department for some of our newer programs, including ELOP, and really it is meant to help support our UPP families and students to find the resources that they do not currently have. This has come up 2 years in a row when we have met with the county office for our LCAP. We are really, the LCAP is centered around these families and this community, and we seem to have this missing link of reaching out to them and really helping them. So interrupt. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that in working with our sites, it's something that we're able to help support them with their ELAC meetings, so their site level meetings with their English language learning parents, with their school site councils, and really just helping them to hand over a parent liaison to be able to be a resource beyond their counselors to help support students that are in housing transition or receiving foster care. We have received families that are refugees, that even just being able to support them and getting immunization translated when families first get here, any of that beyond. This is another support that we would be looking at. And again, as Chief Business Official Bonnevert stated, it would be able to also support programs like our ELOC program to be able to make sure that we're connecting components, families that might be food scarce or anything else. And then also being able to help the transition between 8th grade and 9th grade, preschool to here. So really helping on some of those transitions where some of our students are getting lost. So.
Yeah, I want to say that when I was reading through the job description, it sounded really interesting. And I was even thinking of like a couple of parents in our district who always talk about things kind of addressed in that, you know, maybe they should consider applying because, I mean, well, if they have a background, but I think there's a lot of community interest for this kind of position in our district. And it sounded like they would also kind of take over like our Latinx family nights, or like we started the Asian American family and Black student family, you know, kind of groups that started, that person would also take that under their job.
Not only take them over, but also hopefully expand it with that parent. We were looking for a parent to go with the staff because it was really starting to fall on a lot of our staff. And so to also help bridge that parent engagement component. It's one thing for us to plan it and do it, but then it's us planning the agendas. So we were talking about what we wanted to talk about versus hearing from the parents what they wanted to talk about. So be in partnership more with our community. And actually thinking about like with Trustee DeVoy's comments of last week, felt like last week, last month, really around our math and taking that step closer, looking to the data and meeting with our families and as we're planning going forward. So we have a Jedi meeting this week, and we're meeting with math teachers specifically about population, and then going to LFN, we already have one set up for February 8th, and meeting with our LFN network. But really, how can we continue to engage our community around this? But then once we get the information, what do we do with the data? So
and it does seem like a challenging position in some ways, that you really need somebody who's good at that kind of community engagement, but also kind of social work, you know, to make those connections with resources for families as well. So yeah. Hopefully you find them.
Well, we've also learned that there's a lot of people in San Mateo County, a lot of districts in San Mateo County that have this job description. And that have, so there's a community of connections within the county. So whoever has the position will also have other people, job likes, which will be great.
Yeah.
This is slated as a classified coordinator position. Our district does have those classified institute coordinators that are on separate salary schedules. So the type of individual, the experience we are looking for will align with that.
Okay, well, it is a voting item, and so would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the student community engagement coordinator job description.
Is there a second?
A second.
Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then Kristen, I might need help with the next part. So moving on to the consent agenda, that current items we pulled from the consent agenda. I have 15BE, 15BC, and then the third one.
It was also 15BE.
Oh, okay.
2 of the items were policies under consent, and then 1 was the
Just
calendar.
different policies.
Correct.
Okay, great. So do I need to start in a certain order? Or the first one pulled was 15BE.
Let's go with
Okay. Okay. And Lauren, did you have something that you wanted?
Yeah, on for the board policy 3516.5, last month, trustee DuBois had asked for a statement to be added that when, you know, there's an emergency, like closure of the schools, that the superintendent can notify members of the board, you know, as soon as possible when it happens. So I would propose that we add the superintendent or designee will notify the board of trustees as soon as reasonably possible after any of the above actions are taken. That would be the last sentence of the first paragraph.
And does that need to be a voting item since it's a change in the rate? Okay. Does anyone have any comments on that? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Lauren.
I'll second.
And, okay, and then this next item is, all in favor? Aye. Okay, and then the next item is also 15BE and
Yes, okay, me again about this, so I keep coming back. So with respect to the district schools website policy, we've had conversations specifically in open forum. It didn't get voted on. It's just something I said. Placing in that policy the idea that what students learn at each grade level broadly is on there, such as you're eligible for band in this class, foreign language, keyboarding, whatever. And we've had conversations, well, it should be in the guidelines or it should be in the policy. And I wanted to learn more from you, Marla, with respect to what is the difference between placing these, specifically that item, kind of coursework structure in the policy versus in the guidelines. Because my viewpoint, and I could be wrong with my understanding, is a policy is lasting, it has impact, it can only be overturned by 3 out of 5 board members. So that would be my preference. And guidelines can be changed much more easily. So my preference would be, if the board agrees that that should be in the policy, that the coursework is laid out in the policy to put on the website. First grade, you do this, second grade, you do this, all the way through 8th grade. Without getting into day-to-day instruction or anything like that. That's not my goal.
So when we discussed it, we had talked about putting it on, having it go through the superintendent or designee based on guidelines. Guidelines being like state standards or guidelines put forth by the state or the educational establishment. Meaning that if the principals and the teachers say, we are going to learn keyboarding skills at 3rd grade level, and that's the standard in Burlingame, and that's the educational experts are saying this is when we're going to do it, then that's when we would do it. If we do it through a board policy, then yes, that would be the board voting on it, right? But this is really the district, the educational experts making that decision. State standards change, they do change, like NGSS, science, all of that changes. And they go through their rigmarole of like going from, and the state board approves them, and it goes through a long lasting study of any standards, and they go through the approval process and all of that. And that is what we tend to look towards. We don't.
No, I interrupted.
But so the state approves it through all the educational experts at that level, and then we can go through stuff beyond that and make sure that we have the choice to approve their standards when we go look at curriculum options or anything else. And we can add standards beyond that. But it's not typically school boards don't typically choose standards beyond the state boards that we would study.
Right, and I may have misspoke. I wasn't trying to say the board should have any purview over, for example, what grade levels keyboarding. I have
Okay.
no basis for that. Just whatever it is, publish it on the website is what I'm saying. So if you want to change it to 4th grade, 8th grade, 2nd grade, that's your department. But whatever it is, the policy should be in the policy. It's going to be published on the website.
So you're just asking that the board, sorry, maybe I misunderstood. You're just asking that the board policy states that state standards are published on the website.
In terms of what we do in Burlingame, when your kids learn different subjects at what grade level. Because, for example, here I am, I never knew keyboarding was 3rd grade. I've asked.
I just threw that out there,
Okay.
so you know, just so you know, threw that out there.
So I don't know.
I know.
Do you want to tell me
Yeah.
what is keyboarding?
Well, I mean, it's not even, I mean, I would have to go in and look because I'll be honest, it might not even, I mean, there are tech standards and they are posted on the website though.
Okay.
You know, under the technology department. But there's the math standards, so I guess I need clarification. Trustee DeFoy,
Sure.
are you just requesting that we publish like ELA standards, world language standards, NGSS standards on the website by grade level?
Not, well, I'm not familiar with what all those standards
Okay.
are, so you would have much more knowledge than I would. For example, I'm just saying, every open house I've gone to, which has always been fabulous, the teacher says, here's what we're gonna do this year.
Right.
Broadly incorporate that onto the district website. Here's what they learned 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, specifically with elective coursework, because I run into a lot of parents that say, oh, wow, I knew my kid was doing band in 4th grade. I wouldn't have paid for all these lessons. I didn't know. And so if that could be on the website is what I'm looking to do when your children are eligible to take certain courses.
Okay.
Those wouldn't be standard, though. Those would just be additional things that the district is offering.
Right, so the only thing I'm looking for to place on the website is, again, the coursework, when your students learn what subject.
Right. So you're looking for more specialties. So
I'm not saying what those specialties
no,
are, that's not my.
Things like more of a timeline.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Very interesting, because if you look on, have you had a chance to ever go into any of the standards?
On our BSD website?
No, just look any of the state standards.
No,
There's thousands, and they cross over, so. And they build on each other, and so you might see in one year a standard around that. It's also in the 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade curriculum, so it's like continually building on it, so it's
So again,
difficult to list every.
I'm just thinking of the average parent point of view, thinking, what's my kid gonna do this year?
Right, you're looking for like
Yeah.
what to expect when you
Yeah.
have a 1st grader.
Yep.
sort of thing.
Yep.
Right.
So it says, we do have website content that you have links to educational resources. I think maybe it's the curriculum that you're looking for, like.
But again, I don't want to get into details in the weeds and tell people what to teach, that's not my
But you
place,
had a
just
link.
the subject,
If you had a link to the curriculum and it says this is what we do at each level.
right, but I think it's also beyond curriculum. I think
It's
sorry.
literally the standards.
No, it's top, yeah.
Right, but I think we also have to, but it's also beyond standards, because I'm gonna be honest, like for instance, in Burlingame, students receive PE and TK and K. However, state standards, their PE doesn't start till 1st grade. Right, so you're also asking for what you get if you're students in Burlingame.
Yeah. Exactly.
Versus state standards, which there's actually not. So I think what you're asking for is if my child is attending school in Burlingame, what does their educational program look like? Correct? Yep. Including like specialists or anything like that. So for instance, you're saying band in 4th grade, like what can you expect?
Exactly,
Right? So content areas.
correct.
Okay.
But not the
So
actual.
that, but not the actual standards that they'll be.
Yeah, I don't want to, it's not my place as a board member to say, what is taught, that's, I'm just saying, these are the broad categories of classes your child's eligible to learn in each grade level.
Okay.
Out in the grade level on the board policy, because the grade levels could potentially change, so just.
Well, the area might, I mean, the programs might change too,
Yeah.
based on like,
Website.
we have teaching it, what we're funding and what we're, it's kind of like with Prop 28 coming in. I mean, it's all different depending on what's happening, everything could change too.
Did you have suggested, like a suggested sentence that you were?
Sure, like, for example, you could just have a column, kindergarten through 8, these are the subject matters your child learns in each grade.
In the
How
policy,
about- how about-
on the.
Not in the policy, just the policy should dictate that the superintendent do that rather than we have these guidelines that we don't have control over.
Do you have a sentence that,
Yeah,
for the
yeah. What do
policy?
you?
I see, thank you very much. That for the policy language should be that the district content on the website will include courses taught at each grade level.
But so is it like, can it be so vague as to just say
Sure,
language art?
band, math, PE,
So you're not looking for like in third grade or how do you focus on
No.
multiplication? You're just looking for over the course of your child. Curriculum, your math, language, social science.
with each grade level.
science.
And I would imagine every grade level would say math or language arts. Yeah,
Okay, it might be very broad, I guess would be the thing, right? So it's a fourth grade's music. They're gonna have choir and band, right?
sure.
Feels a little like outside of board policy in my mind, but I don't know, like, it seems more like that's like the jurisdiction of the
Mhm.
folks creating the website. Just by, I don't know.
So that's why I was trying to leave it broad, because I don't want to tell people what to place on there, other than that, here's what your child learns in our school system at each grade level. And I think that'd be really helpful for parents to see on, I know the website's going through revisions later.
So, I mean, there's the first sentence under website content. It talks about all the things that go in there, the agendas, SARCs, school calendars, links to educational resources, an overview of student education.
Some opportunities.
Yeah. Something like that. You know,
Are you okay with being that broad?
Yep.
This needs to become a motion, right? I would like to.
should probably have the specifics, right, of some of the language.
Okay, so then would that mean we would push this back to another read at another meeting?
You know, unless Elizabeth can think of.
I'm trying to think, yeah,
So it does say, district/school programs and operations in that first paragraph. Could we change it to district/school educational program? I mean,
Yes,
with, I guess, when adding that,
Yeah, if you could say educational program by grade level.
I agree with that, the piece missing. Sorry, not super excited there.
Yeah, my concern would be hard coding anything to a website that needs to be changed more frequently.
yeah.
Very valid.
Look for the, right here. So I'm under website content, the first paragraph is what I'm looking at.
School educational programs by grade level and operations.
That's fine.
Does that? Curious how you feel about that with middle school? That's really the one that's sticking out in my mind. But Trojan time is listed and there's so many changes.
in that. Yeah.
Right.
And there is some information about electives and so forth that's already on the PIS website.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little concerned about like walking something in and then our principals being like, now I can't do that for fourth grade because it's in fourth grade and that would be my only.
I mean, my,
Split level class.
yeah, my understanding is the website can be changed today. I mean, WordPress site.
Well, so can I make a suggestion? It's not going to be what you're asking for. It's more if during the leadership team meetings that you ask the principals to actually make that calendar at the beginning of the school year and all the parents at the school site get it. More on that level rather than make it part of the board policy.
share with their parents that your first grade child receives.
Or just even in general, like all the grade, and it's just one document, and the principal changes it, you know, as it changes and evolves, but everybody sees it, you know, and it's just like one page summary of what every grade level will be doing that year in a very broad sense, including like fourth grade band and choir, fifth grade choir, you know. Right, like all that kind of stuff, including the offerings that are kind of triggered by entering that grade, like music. Yeah, like band.
That actually feels a lot, that feels clean to me.
Yeah, and it's, to me, it makes like a lot of sense, because the principal is going to know what's happening here.
Okay,
Does that feel okay to you? How does that to do that?
okay. All right.
So we just need a motion to approve it as written.
As written, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
I'll move to approve that item as written.
okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, now moving on to item 15 CP. In he is the 2023-2024 school year calendar. And the reason I pulled that is just more for educational purposes. There have been so many folks that have asked this year why our calendar is set up the way it is and dates around spring break, that I thought this might be a good opportunity for us to just share how it works, all the planning that goes into it, committee, the union, the work we do with the union.
Sure. So Mr. Paveo stayed this evening for this reason. He is one of our principals that helps to lead this committee and has been on the committee for, I believe, the whole time I think I've been here since he used to lead it with, we always try and have one middle school principal and one elementary principal. And then we have members of BEA has a representative from each school site that is on a committee. CSEA has a member, and that is part of their contract to come together and work with us. Kirsten does create numerous calendars, and we do center around trying to align with San Mateo Union High School's spring break. The partner districts in the area to try to align to that spring break. So that is part of the agreement, and we work with all of our unions to collaboratively, based on our collective bargaining agreements from both unions, come together and come to consensus on different calendars. And we go back to the unions, and the unions get to vote, and they rank them in order. Part of it is, so we do get outreach from the community. I have received some on our calendars, and we have, I think I've gotten them every year I've been here, and I'm sure the trustees that have been here some have gotten some over the years too. And part of it is why do we have different winter breaks, or why do we have different, why do we have a longer Thanksgiving, or why do we have President's Week? And a lot of the components that we have talked about, and in meeting with San Mateo Union High School District over the years, some of the stories that I have heard from them, they start earlier. Part of it is to align with having your finals done prior to winter break. That gives parents and families a nice little break over those 2 weeks, not studying finals, not having those that extra component for that 2-week break. It helps with instructional minutes, to have more instructional minutes prior to large sets of tests, state testing, AP tests, all of that. It also helps for anybody applying to post-college courses or post-high school courses, colleges, or any of that. Transcripts are done at an earlier time. So that is part of the components that I have heard personally from San Mateo Union High School District and other schools. The union, so some of it is also in our collective bargaining agreement, as I stated, whether it's like conference days, we have to talk about which days we pick with them, whether it's where we place our professional learning days. So those are some of the items that we do work with our union around. But it's always been a very collaborative process, I would say. They're always very kind. They come to the table, they work with us. It's usually 2 or 3 meetings where we go back and forth. And it's been nice to do them again in person, I heard this year. Were you on Zoom again? Oh, I thought it was in person this year. Oh. But usually it goes out to the groups and then comes back to usually Hilt, our principal's leadership team, where they talk about what works. Usually around conferences or anything like that, and then back to the group, and then they go out for a large vote, and then it comes to the board for a vote. Matt, do you have anything to kind of add?
No, I mean, it's pretty much it. Roughly the same. The biggest change this year is we moved an October date to November 1st to help out with the day after the Halloween. Since Halloween falls, I believe on a Tuesday. We're kind of midweek break. It also actually gives us a longer stretch at the beginning, which is a nice time to have with the students and teachers are still very fresh and can get a lot done in September, October. It actually works out that way also, but more in line with a lot of districts trying to do that the day after Halloween. It's now starting to fall. Maybe it's a whole.
I would
I
say
think some of you are on the site, like, or I think we're on my site.
They were hyper.
It was crazy, yeah.
I would say the other big piece of parent or community feedback that we took into account was it 2 years ago that we did the TA change, where it used to be depending upon when your concert was, you had a random Friday minimum day, and so different schools would have different Friday minimum days across town. And so we worked with our union and partnership, and we aligned the Fridays for minimum days. And so now it's like the Friday before winter break, the Friday before spring break, or before a long weekend, which a lot of our parents appreciated, because otherwise, if you had students at different schools, you would have this Friday and then you'd have a different Friday. And so people didn't have the same Fridays. So that was something that we worked in partnership with the union and based on parent and community feedback that we did align with too.
Yeah, one thing we probably look for in the future, although we'll be aligning more with even the high school district or how we work down a little bit better. The other thing is originally we took the week-long Thanksgiving break because of the help with our attendance. We were getting a lot of people that are taking those days. It's kind of, we have to look at the data again to see if that's helping or if people taking Friday before now and something like that. So we might have to adjust that way. But originally it was based on when do we have most kids there, when are we losing kids, and how can we adapt our schedule around that. We would have to look again at the high school schedule because this year we did see students leaving because the high school district had earlier winter break than us. So a lot of students going out right before we left for our winter break. It's just things to consider as we go through. It's all in agreement. And then the other part that we probably don't talk about enough, but we do talk about in the meeting is teacher burnout when teachers are fresh. When we can get the most optimal amount from our teachers.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask two quick questions? You mentioned earlier, I actually get asked about this a lot with the calendar, so thank you for bringing this up. I have two specific questions. One, why do we have a President's Week? I've heard it called different names by different families. So
we heard it called that too. So we have the Monday and Friday are holidays in the district. So they're actual district holidays. They're actually closed. So I'd actually have to look into what we actually call them.
So the Monday is President's and the Friday is an observance of Lincoln's birthday.
Right. And so the three in the middle, we take as, we only, because kids go 180. And so the three in the middle are the days that we have off to give a break.
Really? Oftentimes in our different calendars we look at, one will have a short week during that February break. So we do discuss it most often.
We take three different versions, and one is not having that week, and usually teachers want that week.
Oh, that's understandable. And then with respect, I heard from a lot of families that celebrate holidays on December 24th and 25th that you can't control how the calendar falls. But a lot of them left to travel on that last day, and I observed attendance to be very low as well. And this year, I think the 24th and 25th are on the Sunday and Monday, and you have scheduled a minimum day that Friday, possibly that's the 23rd or 22nd. Was it ever looked at moving that last day of school a couple of days prior and coming back sooner after New Year's? Because it seemed to me, a lot of families complained to me about that they were traveling and weren't going to be at school, and we're not happy about that. But I don't know what goes into this. So
it's actually one of the days that we should look at, because it's only our elementary schools that have the minimum day that day. So I'm curious what the attendance was at BIS that day. But Matt, do you want to speak about the other calendars that went forward? Because looking at the.
Most of them
moving
were
the
around,
winter.
yeah, we didn't touch too much on the winter break, we always kind of look at. I'd have to look at the actual calendar, but usually what happens is it either aligns very close to the winter or it's gonna take the 17th or something like that off. The preference then is you're butting up against winter concerts, you're butting up with August, so to give us a little bit more breathing room than winter, it's better to go later, but certainly we haven't done a deep dive on real attendance since for a couple of years now on it, because the schedule was working well. We haven't seen the issues until this year. It kind of popped up a little bit more this
I think with the 2 years with COVID and then the hybrid AD and all of
Yep.
that, I think it would be a great time to go back and look at that too.
Yep.
And also at the end of the year, are people leaving earlier because there's like a 3-week
Right.
gap with high school?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And so if you're still gonna look at this, do you still want our vote on this matter? or no?
This is, this.
Yeah, website meant for future.
It would be looking at 20.
23, 24.
This is 23, 24, 24, 25 is where we'd be going next.
I know, but we're.
Oh, so no, we're going 24, 25 is what we'd be.
So we're
Yes.
approving 23.
Oh, got it, sorry, right. Right.
You still have to approve this.
We still does have to be.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so do we need to actually approve it since I pulled it? Because
Yes,
it didn't
we
go
need-
on the
yes,
consent.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so,
The two unions have approved it.
Oh,
It's just the less stuff.
yeah, would, anyone like to make a motion, regarding 15C?
I'll move to approve 15CC school calendar.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item 19, public statements related to non-agenda items. Thank you. Kirsten, do we have any public statements related to non-agenda items?
No, we do not presently.
Okay, and board 20 and 24 requested items. Then we will recess again to close the session. It is 7:40.
We can pull those. I would look
I was trying to
I'll see,
hold the
yeah.
22nd, but I couldn't.